name is Spenser Aden. I'm 49 years old, and I worked at the Johnson Space Center for NASA and the Space Shuttle program from 1991 until 1994. Before I worked at the Space Center, I had worked in the electrical management industry, where we wrote software that electrical companies use to manage their grid and get electricity to the system. At some point, being in Houston, I had always thought that it would be fun to work for the Space Center and work for the shuttle program. A colleague of mine who I had worked with at one point was working for Lockheed as a contractor at the Space Center, and I contacted her, and they had job openings, so I interviewed. Luckily for me, I qualified for the job and they liked me, so they hired me. So in 1991, that's when I started. The position was a position that held two responsibilities. One responsibility was that we had, our group wrote and supported a piece of software that was called MEWS, M-E-W-S, the Mission Evaluation Workstation System. And that provided all of the data to the actual rocket scientists who were in charge of keeping the space shuttle alive. We worked in the Mission Evaluation Room. This room is not the room that you would see on camera during a space shuttle flight. It was actually a room that was directly behind that camera through the wall. The people that you would see on television are sort of the management engineers. The people back in the back rooms, such as the Mission Evaluation Room, were the actual rocket scientists who would keep the shuttle alive and were in charge of the payloads and whatever was being carried. One part of my job was to support each space shuttle flight. The first flight that I was there for was when the Hubble Space Telescope was launched and put into orbit. And I was there through 1994, where my last flight was the first maintenance mission for the Hubble Space Telescope. That was the last flight that I supported. It's really funny, the general perception of people that work for the Space Center and worked for the shuttle program is really pretty different from the reality of the people that work there. You know, a lot of people think that everyone wears lab coats and is very nerdy and are just, you know, I don't know, some rocket scientists. And while it's true that there are very definitely rocket scientists that work there and are behind the development of the systems and the support of the systems, a lot of the folks that I worked with, we were computer programmers. We were people who had worked in industry. We didn't have any specific space training. We learned all of that. We were just regular folks. My group of programmers and developers, we would go out once a week and have drinks after work on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night. Just regular folks. These are actually, I mentioned the two projects that I worked on. This is in beautiful government green. This is the notebook that I used for the ODRC upgrade project, the very first project that I worked on. And then when that project was done, another surprisingly similar looking notebook for the MER upgrade. And this was the one that would actually put the data into real time up on the screen for the engineers. Another perk of working for the Space Center and working on shuttle flights and doing support is that NASA has official patches that they provide, that they make for every, for every flight. And people can go to the souvenir places and buy them, but we actually are given patches, just for having worked the flight, which is really nice. This one, I believe, if I remember correctly, this one is the patch for the Hubble Space Telescope launch, the first flight that I actually worked, because I believe that's the Hubble being launched. In 1994, well, I should say, working for the Space Center was very rewarding and was a lot of fun. Most everyone that I knew could, to some degree, relate to the Space Shuttle program and could understand it. But by 1994, the way that the political and funding situation was for NASA and the Johnson Space Center, it was very difficult to be a government contractor. And the contract to Lockheed had been rebid, and Lockheed had re-won the contract. But in order to win that contract, they actually bid us out to be working a 44-hour work week. So they added 10% to our work week without adding any pay. And they had not bid any pay increases into that. Furthermore, they had to change and cut our health insurance benefits and other benefits quite a bit in order to retain that contract. So it just wasn't a good situation to be raising a family. My son was getting ready, our first child was getting ready to be born and was born, and the insurance situation wasn't particularly good. So I decided, living in Houston, that my wife and I actually decided that I should probably be looking elsewhere for some other work. It was a bit bittersweet, but there was plenty of work, and I found work in the oil and gas industry, which was nice, and I worked there for a year. After which time we decided that we wanted to move to Middle Tennessee, to the Nashville area where my family was, so that we could raise children around extended family. I really enjoyed my time at the Space Center. I think that if it hadn't been a bad environment to be working for a government contractor at that time, I probably would have continued to work and probably would have retired from the Space Center working there, if I'd felt that it would have been good all around. So it was really, really great, very fulfilling.